Ethan was a determined and ambitious young man, recently graduated in business administration from the University of Chicago. He was eager to start his career and had been preparing for a series of job interviews. The next interview, with Tech Solutions Incorporated, a cutting-edge technology company in New York, seemed like his big opportunity. This company was known for its innovations and for offering excellent growth opportunities for young professionals. On the day of the interview, Ethan woke up early, feeling a mixture of nervousness and excitement. He reviewed his notes, revisited the details about the company, and practiced his answers to potential questions. Wanting to make a good impression, he carefully chose his outfit: a dark gray suit, a crisply ironed white shirt, and a blue tie. While getting ready, his hand touched a small blue velvet case on his dresser. Inside the case was his mother's necklace. The necklace was a simple but elegant piece, with a gold heart-shaped pendant. For Ethan, the necklace had immeasurable sentimental value. His mother, Emily, had given him the necklace before she passed away, saying it would always bring him luck. Since then, Ethan kept the necklace as a memento of his mother and her words of encouragement. He rarely wore it, but felt that for this important interview, it would be comforting to have something so special close to him. Ethan hesitated for a moment, wondering if he should wear the necklace. He worried it might seem out of place in a formal job interview. However, the idea of having a part of his mother with him comforted him. He decided to put on the necklace, discreetly hiding it under his shirt. As he did so, he felt a wave of calm and confidence, as if his mother were there with him, supporting him. With the necklace securely tucked under his shirt, Ethan looked at himself in the mirror, adjusted his tie, and grabbed his leather briefcase. He was ready. As he left his apartment, he took one last look around to make sure he hadn't forgotten anything important. On the way to the interview, he mentally repeated the main points of his answers and the values of Tech Solutions Incorporated, ensuring he was well prepared for any questions that might arise. Arriving at the Tech Solutions Incorporated building, Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the grandeur of the glass skyscraper towering before him. He entered the elegant lobby, where he was greeted by a smiling receptionist who guided him to the waiting room. The room was decorated with modern furniture and abstract art, creating a sophisticated and welcoming environment. Ethan sat down, trying to calm his nerves while waiting to be called. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, an assistant entered the room and led him to the hiring manager's office. Upon entering, Ethan was greeted by Mr. Johnson, a middle-aged man with a friendly yet professional expression. Mr. Johnson stood up and shook Ethan's hand firmly. "Ethan, it's a pleasure to meet you. Please, have a seat." The interview began with basic questions about Ethan's education and previous experiences. Ethan responded confidently, highlighting his volunteer work, internships, and academic projects. He spoke about his passions and how he identified with the values and mission of Tech Solutions Incorporated. Mr. Johnson seemed impressed and took several notes as Ethan spoke. Then, the conversation delved into more personal questions. Mr. Johnson asked Ethan about what motivated and inspired him. Ethan, without hesitation, began to talk about his mother. He explained how she always encouraged him to follow his dreams and to be an honest and hardworking person. "My mother was my greatest inspiration," Ethan said. "She taught me the importance of persevering even in difficulties and always believing in myself." As he spoke, Ethan instinctively reached for the necklace under his shirt, revealing it slightly. Mr. Johnson, noticing the gesture, suddenly fell silent. His eyes fixed on the necklace, and his expression changed to a mixture of surprise and confusion. Ethan, realizing the reaction, felt a chill in his stomach, fearing he had done something wrong. Mr. Johnson took a deep breath and asked, "Ethan, can you tell me where you got that necklace?" The question took Ethan by surprise. He looked at the necklace and then back at Mr. Johnson, confused. "This necklace belonged to my mother," he replied hesitantly. "She gave it to me before she passed away. Why do you ask?" Mr. Johnson appeared visibly emotional. He explained that the necklace was identical to one his sister, Emily, often wore. Emily had mysteriously disappeared more than 20 years ago, and the family never knew what happened to her. The necklace was one of her creations, a unique and very special piece for her. Mr. Johnson never expected to see the necklace again, and seeing it now, in Ethan's hands, brought up a flood of emotions and questions. Ethan was shocked by the revelation. He never knew much about the origin of the necklace, only that it was a valuable gift from his mother. Now, suddenly, it seemed there was a deeper and more mysterious connection between him, his mother, and Mr. Johnson's family. The interview, which had started as a simple job search, had turned into something much more significant and personal. Mr. Johnson asked Ethan to tell him more about his mother and how he came to possess the necklace. Ethan, still surprised and trying to process everything, agreed, feeling that there was much more to this story than he ever imagined. Ethan was visibly shaken by Mr. Johnson's revelation about the necklace. The interview, which began on a professional and expectant note, had quickly become a deeply personal and unexpected experience. Mr. Johnson, now clearly emotional, asked Ethan to share more about his mother and how she came to possess the necklace. Ethan took a deep breath, trying to organize his thoughts. He explained that his mother, Elizabeth, always had a fascination with unique, handcrafted jewelry. When Ethan was a child, Elizabeth would often take him to craft fairs and art galleries, where they explored pieces by local artists together. It was at one of these fairs, in a small town in Illinois, that Elizabeth found the necklace. She told Ethan that upon seeing the necklace, she felt an instant connection and knew she had to have it. Elizabeth bought the necklace from a vendor who mentioned that the piece had been made by an artist named Emily. He didn't have many details, but Elizabeth was enchanted by the delicacy of the work and the positive energy she felt when wearing it. She wore the necklace on special occasions and considered it a lucky charm. When she fell ill shortly before passing away, Elizabeth decided to pass the necklace on to Ethan, believing it would continue to bring luck and protection to him. Mr. Johnson listened attentively, absorbing every detail. He told Ethan that his sister, Emily, was a talented jewelry designer known for creating unique, personalized pieces. Emily had a special passion for creating jewelry that told a story, capturing emotions and special moments. The necklace Ethan wore was one of her most significant pieces, a creation she always wore as her lucky necklace. Emily disappeared during a trip to explore different cultures and crafts around the country, a journey she had planned to expand her creative horizons. Her family never knew exactly what happened to her, and Emily's disappearance left a deep wound in everyone. Mr. Johnson explained that the necklace had special significance for the family, not just as a work of art, but as a symbol of Emily and everything she represented. Ethan felt a mix of emotions. He was moved by Emily's story and the unexpected connection he now shared with Mr. Johnson. The idea that the necklace, a piece so special to him and his mother, also had a rich and emotional history for another family, left him perplexed. Ethan began to realize that there was much more to the story of the necklace than he could have imagined. Mr. Johnson, struggling to hold back tears, asked Ethan if he knew anything more about the necklace or how his mother might have met Emily. Ethan vaguely remembered his mother mentioning an artist friend she had met during one of her trips, but he had never paid much attention to it at the time. Now, that small memory seemed to hold enormous weight. Ethan promised Mr. Johnson that as soon as he got home, he would look through his mother's belongings to try to find out more about this connection. The two men sat in silence for a moment, processing the emotions and coincidences that had brought them together. Ethan felt a deep responsibility to discover more about his mother's past and her relationship with Emily. Mr. Johnson, in turn, was grateful for the chance to finally have some answers about what happened to his sister. The job interview had taken a completely different turn than expected, but Ethan knew this was more important than anything he could have planned. He and Mr. Johnson decided to keep in touch and continue exploring this mysterious connection between their families. Ethan left the office feeling more connected to his mother and the past than he had ever felt, and determined to uncover the truth. After leaving Tech Solutions Incorporated, Ethan felt dazed and intrigued by the day's revelations. He knew he needed to understand better the connection between his mother, Elizabeth, and Emily, Mr. Johnson's sister. Determined to unearth any clues that might clarify this mysterious connection, Ethan went straight home. In his apartment, Ethan opened his mother's old jewelry box, a treasure trove of memories he rarely explored. The box contained various pieces, some of which Ethan vaguely remembered from his childhood. He began to rummage through the contents, looking for anything that might provide a clue about Emily or the necklace. At the bottom of the box, Ethan found a small, yellowed envelope, sealed and old-looking. With trembling hands, he opened the envelope and took out a carefully folded letter. The letter was handwritten and addressed to Emily. His mother's handwriting, Elizabeth's, was immediately recognizable to Ethan. With a racing heart, Ethan began to read the letter. In it, Elizabeth described how she had met Emily during a trip to a small town known for its arts and crafts. Elizabeth was looking for new inspirations for her own art collection, and Emily's creativity immediately captivated her. The two women spent several days together, exploring the town, discussing art, and exchanging ideas. They quickly became friends, united by a shared passion for beauty and artistic expression. The letter contained touching details about the conversations between Elizabeth and Emily, including the fact that Emily had given Elizabeth the necklace as a symbol of their new friendship and as a source of inspiration. Emily mentioned that the necklace was one of her favorite creations and that she hoped it would bring luck and happiness to Elizabeth. The letter ended with Elizabeth expressing her sadness at losing touch with Emily, who had moved on to another town to continue her artistic journey. Ethan felt a wave of emotion as he finished reading the letter. Now, he had concrete proof that his mother and Emily had indeed known each other, and that the necklace was a meaningful gift. The story of friendship and art between the two women was touching and explained why the necklace had so much emotional value to both families. With the letter in hand, Ethan knew he needed to share this discovery with Mr. Johnson. He immediately called him, and Richard Johnson, still emotional from the day's events, answered promptly. Ethan explained about the letter and what he had discovered, suggesting they meet again to discuss what it might mean and what more they could uncover together. Richard was deeply moved upon hearing about the letter. He recalled how Emily always talked about finding an artistic soul mate during her travels and how she wished to inspire and be inspired by other artists. The mention of the necklace as a gift of friendship reinforced to Richard how special that period had been for his sister. He thanked Ethan for sharing the discovery and arranged to meet the next day, where they could explore more about their mother's pasts and the necklace's history. At their next meeting, Ethan brought the letter and the jewelry box, while Richard brought photo albums and memories of Emily. They spent hours discussing and sharing stories. Richard showed Ethan several photos of Emily in her workshop, working on her jewelry, including some pictures of her wearing the necklace. It was moving for both to see how the necklace had been a significant part of Emily's life and how it now connected two families. They discussed the possibility of visiting the small town where Elizabeth and Emily had met, hoping to find more information or perhaps even people who remembered Emily. Both felt that this journey could bring more clarity and perhaps even more unexpected connections. Ethan and Richard were determined to follow all available leads to fully understand Emily's story and her connection with Elizabeth. They were aware that while more answers could bring peace and closure, they could also raise new questions. However, both were ready to face any discovery, eager to honor the memories of their mothers and celebrate the art and friendship that united them. As Ethan and Richard continued to organize the exhibition in Ridgewood, they received an unexpected invitation from Claire, Emily's friend. Claire suggested they visit her home, where she kept a personal collection of Emily's memories, including some pieces of jewelry and other personal items. Ethan and Richard, eager to learn more, gratefully accepted the invitation. When they arrived at Claire's house, they were warmly welcomed and led to a room decorated with various pieces of art and photographs. Claire explained that she and Emily were close friends and that after Emily disappeared, she dedicated herself to preserving her friend's memory through her artistic creations. Claire believed that each piece created by Emily carried a part of her soul and her inspirations. Claire brought out a large wooden box that had been kept in the back of a closet. The box was filled with Emily's personal items, including letters, photographs, sketchbooks, and some of her most precious jewelry. Ethan and Richard watched closely as Claire began to reveal the treasures inside. Among the items, they found a series of letters Emily had written to friends and family during her travels. One of the letters caught Ethan's attention. It was addressed to Elizabeth. In it, Emily spoke fondly of her friendship with Elizabeth, describing her as an artistic soulmate. Emily wrote about how they shared their passions and dreams and how meeting Elizabeth had been one of the most inspiring experiences of her life. The letter also mentioned the necklace. Emily explained that she had created it with the intention of bringing luck and protection, and that she felt Elizabeth needed it more than she did. She expressed hope that the necklace would always remind Elizabeth of her artistic potential and inner strength. Ethan was deeply moved by Emily's words, now understanding the depth of the bond between the two women. In addition to the letters, Claire showed them a photo album, including images of Emily working on her jewelry, often wearing the necklace that now belonged to Ethan. The photos captured intimate moments of Emily's life, revealing a dedicated and passionate artist. Each piece of jewelry seemed to tell a story, and Claire explained that Emily believed her creations were more than just adornments. They were talismans of luck and protection. One of the most striking photos showed Emily at a craft fair, with Elizabeth by her side. The two women were smiling, holding hands, and displaying various pieces of jewelry. It was an image of happiness and camaraderie, and Ethan felt a deep connection seeing his mother so young and happy alongside Emily. Richard, for his part, was emotional seeing so many memories of his sister preserved with such care. He thanked Claire for her dedication to keeping Emily's memory alive and for sharing these precious moments with him and Ethan. Richard felt that, through these items, he was rediscovering a part of Emily that had been lost over time. As they continued to explore the box, they found a journal that Emily had kept during her travels. The journal was full of personal reflections, sketches of ideas for new jewelry, and thoughts about the people she met along the way. One entry in particular caught Ethan's attention. Emily wrote about feeling a spiritual connection with Elizabeth, describing her as an inspiration and a true friend. She also mentioned that she felt fate had brought them together and hoped her creations would bring joy and luck to Elizabeth and her family. The discovery of the journal brought a new layer of understanding to Ethan and Richard. They realized that Emily and Elizabeth shared a deep bond, based not only on their passion for art, but also on a sincere and spiritual friendship. Through these discoveries, Ethan began to see his mother in a new light, understanding more about her life and friendships before he was born. With all this information and items in hand, Ethan and Richard felt that the Ridgewood exhibition needed to reflect not only the story of Emily and Elizabeth's jewelry and art, but also the deep and meaningful friendship they had. They decided that the exhibition would be a celebration of their lives and how their creative passions connected them in unexpected ways. In the days that followed, Ethan and Richard worked tirelessly to prepare the exhibition, with the help of Claire and other friends of Emily. The local community showed great interest and support, with many contributing their own memories and stories about Emily. The exhibition, now titled Golden Bonds, The Friendship of Emily and Elizabeth, promised to be a memorable event, celebrating the artistic and personal legacy of the two women. In the days leading up to the opening of the Golden Bonds, The Friendship of Emily and Elizabeth exhibition, the small town of Ridgewood buzzed with excitement. The event had become a focal point not only for the local residents, but also for visitors from other regions, drawn by the touching story of friendship and art. Preparing for the exhibition was a collective effort, with Ethan, Richard, and Claire leading the project, but with the collaboration of many who knew and admired Emily. On the eve of the exhibition, Claire invited Ethan and Richard for a final meeting before the big day. They gathered at the Art of Ridgewood Gallery, where they were setting up the last details. The gallery was filled with light, with Emily's jewelry pieces shining in glass cases, each accompanied by detailed descriptions and photographs. There was also a section dedicated to Elizabeth, with photos of her wearing the necklace and some of her artwork. As they walked through the gallery, admiring the hard work they had put into the exhibition, Claire mentioned that she had something else to share. She led Ethan and Richard to a room at the back of the gallery, where she had kept an old wooden box, which she called the memory box. Claire explained that after Emily's disappearance, she had kept this box with some of Emily's most personal and significant items. Claire opened the box, and inside were a series of objects that seemed to tell Emily's story in an intimate and personal way. There were letters, photographs, sketchbooks, and, surprisingly, a journal that Emily kept during her travels. Ethan and Richard, moved, began to leaf through the journal. Emily's journal was full of notes about her experiences, reflections, and, most importantly, her friendships. One of the most moving entries for them was the one Emily wrote about her friendship with Elizabeth. Emily described how she and Elizabeth connected deeply on a spiritual and artistic level, sharing their dreams and inspirations. She mentioned that the necklace she gave Elizabeth was a special piece, created to symbolize strength, courage, and protection, qualities she saw in her friend. Emily also wrote about her desire for her jewelry to bring happiness and luck to those who wore it. She believed her creations had the power to connect people and bring good energy. Ethan and Richard were emotional reading these words, feeling they were receiving a direct message from Emily about the significance of the necklace and the friendship she shared with Elizabeth. In addition to the journal, there was a letter Emily wrote to Elizabeth but never sent. In the letter, Emily spoke about her hopes of reuniting with Elizabeth and continuing the friendship that had been interrupted by her sudden departure. She mentioned how much she missed the deep conversations and mutual support they shared, and how the necklace was a constant reminder of their friendship. Ethan was particularly moved by the letter, feeling even more connected to his mother and Emily. He realized that the necklace was not just a piece of jewelry, but a symbol of a friendship that transcended time and circumstances. The story of these two women, who met and inspired each other, became even richer and more significant. Richard, on the other hand, was tearful. He had never known how deep his sister's connection with Elizabeth was, and was touched to discover how much that friendship meant to Emily. Richard thanked Claire for keeping these precious items and for allowing him and Ethan to share this intimate part of Emily's life. The next morning, the gallery was full of visitors. People of all ages came to see Emily's jewelry, learn about the friendship between Emily and Elizabeth, and celebrate the artistic legacy of the two women. Ethan and Richard were approached by many visitors who shared their own stories of friendship and connection, inspired by the narrative the exhibition presented. During the opening ceremony, Ethan and Richard gave emotional speeches, thanking everyone for being present and for celebrating the lives of their mothers. Ethan spoke about the impact his mother, Elizabeth, had on his life and how the necklace became a symbol of strength and inspiration for him. Richard, moved, spoke about his sister Emily's talent and passion and how she always sought to inspire others through her art. The exhibition was a resounding success, with many visitors expressing how they were touched by the stories of Emily and Elizabeth. For Ethan and Richard, it was a transformative experience, not only bringing a deeper understanding of their mothers, but also bringing them closer in an unexpected way. They felt that through the exhibition, they had truly honored their mother's legacy and celebrated the beauty of art and friendship. The memory box became a central part of the exhibition, and many visitors were moved by reading Emily's letters and journal. For Ethan, this experience was an opportunity to understand more about his mother and the stories she never fully told. For Richard, it was a moment of reconnection with his sister and discovering new layers of her life and personality. At the end of the event, as the gallery emptied and the last visitors said their goodbyes, Ethan and Richard sat together, reflecting on the impact the exhibition had. They felt that while the event was a celebration of the past, it had also opened a new chapter in their lives, full of connections and possibilities. Ethan, especially, felt a deep sense of gratitude for having had the opportunity to learn more about his mother and about Emily. He felt that he now had a more complete understanding of who his mother was, and it brought him a sense of peace. For Richard, the exhibition was a chance to reconnect with his sister's memory and share her story with the world. Both knew that the stories of Emily and Elizabeth would continue to live, inspiring those who learned about them. And so, at the end of a day full of emotions and reflections, Ethan and Richard said goodbye to the gallery, knowing that, somehow, their mothers were smiling, proud of the legacy they had left. After the reopening of the Golden Bonds, the Friendship of Emily and Elizabeth exhibition, Ethan and Richard's lives took new directions, inspired by the discoveries and the profound connection they developed with the story of their mothers. The exhibition not only touched the hearts of those who visited, but also opened doors to new opportunities and projects that Ethan and Richard decided to embrace. Ethan, now deeply connected to art and his mother's story, decided to pursue a career that combined his newfound passion for cultural preservation with his background in business administration. He joined a nonprofit organization dedicated to preserving local art history and supporting emerging young artists. The organization, called Artists of Tomorrow, offered mentoring programs, workshops, and exhibitions to help artists develop their skills and share their creations with the world. Inspired by the story of Elizabeth and Emily, Ethan proposed a new project for the organization, a scholarship program in honor of the two artists. The scholarship, titled Emily and Elizabeth Art Scholarships, aimed to support young artists who demonstrated talent and passion for art but faced financial or personal challenges. The program not only provided financial support but also offered access to mentoring and exhibition opportunities, helping artists kickstart their careers. Ethan devoted himself wholeheartedly to the new project, using his administrative skills to ensure the program was well-structured and sustainable. He also worked closely with the local artistic community, seeking to identify and support promising talents. The initiative was enthusiastically received by the community and attracted donations from various sponsors who felt inspired by the touching story of the two friends and artists. Meanwhile, Richard, motivated by the exhibition and the revealed stories, decided to write a book about Emily and Elizabeth. He felt that the story of their lives and friendship deserved to be told in detail, not only to preserve their memory, but also to inspire others to value human connections and the beauty of art. The book, titled Golden Bonds, The Story of Emily and Elizabeth, was a labor of love for Richard, who spent months researching, interviewing friends and family, and collecting stories and memories. The process of writing the book was deeply cathartic for Richard. He found himself revisiting memories from his childhood and youth, recalling happy moments and rediscovering facets of Emily he had forgotten or never known. He also reconnected with Elizabeth's friends and acquaintances, learning more about her life and how she influenced those around her. For Richard, the book became more than a biography. It was a celebration of two lives that, despite their tragedies and challenges, left a lasting legacy of art and inspiration. He included in the book Emily and Elizabeth's letters, excerpts from Emily's journal, and photographs of the two at various moments in their lives. Richard also explored the impact their friendship had on their own artworks, showing how they inspired each other and how that connection influenced their creations. The book launch was an emotional event held at the Art of Ridgewood Gallery where the original exhibition had taken place. The event drew a large crowd, including many who had visited the exhibition and been moved by the story of Emily and Elizabeth. During the event, Richard read excerpts from the book and shared anecdotes about the writing process and the discoveries he made along the way. Ethan also spoke at the event, highlighting the impact the necklace and the exhibition had on his life. He expressed gratitude for having discovered so much about his mother and for having the opportunity to share this story with the world. Ethan spoke about the future of the scholarship program and how he hoped the legacy of Elizabeth and Emily would continue to inspire and support young artists. The book Golden Bonds, The Story of Emily and Elizabeth became a bestseller, receiving positive reviews for its engaging and touching narrative. Readers across the country felt connected to the story of the two women and inspired by their friendship and passion for art. The book also brought greater visibility to the Art of Ridgewood Gallery and the local art community, attracting visitors and tourists interested in learning more about the artist's stories. Moreover, the success of the book and the exhibition led to a new initiative: the creation of a digital archive dedicated to preserving Emily and Elizabeth's works, as well as letters, journals, and other memories related to them. This archive, accessible to the public, became a valuable resource for researchers, students, and anyone interested in learning more about the lives of these two inspiring women. The digital archive also included an interactive section where visitors could leave messages about how the story of Emily and Elizabeth inspired them. Many people shared their own stories of friendship, art, and meaningful connections, creating a virtual community of individuals united by the love and inspiration that emanated from the lives of the two artists. For Ethan and Richard, this journey of discovery and celebration was profoundly transformative. They not only found peace and closure regarding their mother's lives and legacies, but also established new connections and friendships along the way. The story of Emily and Elizabeth, which began with a simple necklace, became a celebration of life, art, and human connections that touched many lives. While reflecting on all they had achieved, Ethan and Richard felt grateful for having had the opportunity to share these stories with the world. They knew that while their mothers were no longer physically present, the impact of their lives would continue to be felt through those they touched and the inspirations they provided. At the end of the book launch event, as the gallery emptied and the last visitors said their goodbyes, Ethan and Richard sat alone for a moment, contemplating Emily's jewelry pieces and Elizabeth's paintings displayed around them. They realized that despite the difficulties and challenges, their mothers had left a legacy of beauty and inspiration that transcended time. And so, with hearts full of gratitude and hope, Ethan and Richard committed to continuing to share the stories of Emily and Elizabeth, keeping alive the memory of these two extraordinary women. And as the sun set over Ridgewood, they knew the future was full of possibilities, inspired by the lessons of love, friendship, and art that their mothers had taught them. The impact of Emily's necklace, which sparked the entire journey of discoveries and reconnections, became a central part of Emily and Elizabeth's legacy. Ethan and Richard, moved by the touching stories and profound impact their mothers' lives had on them and the community, decided it was time to create something enduring to honor their memories. Following the successful book launch and the expanded exhibition, Ethan and Richard began planning an annual event in Ridgewood called the Golden Bonds Festival. The festival would be a celebration of art, friendship, and community, inspired by the lives of Emily and Elizabeth. The festival's goal was not only to remember these two women, but also to promote the same spirit of creativity, collaboration, and connection that they embodied. The first Golden Bonds Festival featured a diverse program of events, including art exhibitions, jewelry-making workshops, talks on memory preservation, and musical performances. Artists from across the region were invited to participate, and the Ridgewood community embraced the event with enthusiasm. The festival quickly became a gathering point for artists and art lovers, as well as a platform for emerging young talents. One of the most poignant moments of the festival was the unveiling of a public sculpture in honor of Emily and Elizabeth. The sculpture, titled Eternal Bonds, was created by a local sculptor inspired by the story of the two friends and the necklace that symbolized their connection. The piece depicted two intertwined hearts, each representing one of the women, with a flowing gold chain between them, symbolizing the necklace and the eternal bond they shared. The sculpture unveiling ceremony was a touching event, with speeches from Ethan, Richard, Claire, and other community members who had been touched by Emily and Elizabeth's story. The sculpture was installed in a central park in Ridgewood, becoming a place of reflection and inspiration for residents and visitors. Beside the sculpture, a plaque detailed the story of the two friends and the impact of their lives and art. In addition to the sculpture, the festival featured a special exhibition of jewelry inspired by Emily's creations, produced by contemporary jewelers who wanted to honor her legacy. The pieces were auctioned off, with the funds raised going to the Emily and Elizabeth Scholarships program, ensuring that more young artists had the opportunity to pursue their dreams. Ethan, now deeply involved in organizing the festival and managing the scholarship program, felt a sense of fulfillment and purpose. He saw how the festival and associated initiatives had revitalized the Ridgewood community, bringing a new focus on arts and culture. Ethan was also moved to see the positive impact the scholarship program was having on young artists' lives, many of whom expressed how the financial support and mentoring had helped them overcome obstacles and develop their careers. Richard, on the other hand, found a new passion in writing and storytelling. Inspired by the success of his first book, he began working on a series of books about the history of art and artists in the region, highlighting the contributions of local figures and preserving their stories for future generations. Richard also became involved in historical preservation projects, helping to document and protect cultural heritage in the Ridgewood area and beyond. The necklace, which had been the starting point for this entire journey, was carefully preserved and kept as a central piece in all exhibitions and related events. It became a powerful symbol of love, friendship, and the mysterious force that connects people's lives in unexpected ways. Ethan and Richard decided that the necklace would be passed down to the next generation of their families, accompanied by a detailed story about its origin and the impact it had on them. At the close of the festival, Ethan and Richard reflected on the incredible impact their mothers' lives had had not only on them but on an entire community. They felt a deep gratitude for having discovered so much about Elizabeth and Emily, and for having the opportunity to share these discoveries with the world. The story of Emily and Elizabeth, which began as a friendship between two artists, had become a celebration of life, art, and human connections. Ethan, in particular, felt he had found his true calling. He was determined to continue the work of promoting art and supporting young talents, keeping alive the memory of his mother and Emily. He knew that while the necklace was a tangible symbol of their connection, the true legacy of Emily and Elizabeth lay in the lives they touched and the inspirations they provided. The Golden Bonds Festival became an annual tradition in Ridgewood, growing in size and reach each year. It attracted artists and visitors from all over the country, becoming one of the region's premier cultural events. Through the festival, the scholarship program, and the stories they shared, Ethan and Richard ensured that Emily and Elizabeth's legacy continued to flourish, inspiring future generations of artists and art lovers. At the end of the first festival, Ethan and Richard stood beside the Eternal Bonds sculpture, looking at the intertwined hearts that symbolized their mothers. They felt that, in some way, Emily and Elizabeth were present, sharing that moment with them. With hearts full of gratitude and pride, Ethan and Richard committed to continuing to celebrate life and art, keeping alive the spirit of friendship and connection their mothers had left behind. And so, the necklace that began as a piece of jewelry became a symbol of something much greater, a reminder that through art and human connections, we can find deeper and more lasting meaning in our lives. Emily and Elizabeth's legacy would continue to live on, inspiring all who heard their stories and participated in the festival, reminding us that the true value of art lies in its ability to connect, inspire, and transform.